Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest heart, the blackest mind, the blackest man on social media is signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button. Because the message is more important than I am. So here's the message. We like to say that the truth hurts and the truth makes you angry and people can't stand to hear about themselves and all that. But if the truth about yourself makes you angry, then what do lies about you do? What do false assumptions about you do? And as a matter of fact, if someone makes the worst, most pessimistic assumptions about you and then voices them, what would that do to you? Which one would hurt more, the truth or the worst assumptions anybody could make about you? I don't know as much about white folks as I do about us, but I know we really don't like to get the benefit of the doubt as black people. Until we're talking about somebody really, 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 really bad. And we know they did it, then we want to make excuses. But, when people want to confront an issue and somebody else is benefiting from it, then we want to just make all the worst assumptions. And of course, the example I'm talking about is it's going to be with these red-pilled black men. We're not making up the stuff we've observed. And we're not all failures in life. So when we're talking about how it's actually a rigged game, that men are the ones confused by women and the reverse is not true, and that the current dating and marriage scenes in the West are bad deals for men and men only, most of our people want to make the worst of assumptions about us. We're failures in life. We're just bird-chested, or we're fat. We're broke. We're lame. We're betas. As if that word is even supposed to carry any meaning for human beings outside of what women want. Let me clear this up for y'all. I myself did fail in life. Most of the men along here with me did not. And even when I failed, I didn't fail because I didn't lift weights and I still expected to get a dime. That's not why I failed. I didn't fail because I had my nose in the books all the time. I failed because understanding that men and women were actually designed for each other, with each other in mind, I failed because I was trying to qualify myself for women, thinking that this is what a heterosexual guy is supposed to do, trying to qualify himself while they were not trying to qualify themselves for me. I didn't take either extreme in self-assessment. I did not assume that I was a 5 and low rank myself, and I didn't assume that I was a 10 and be arrogant. I did neither one. I failed because I simply did not know that it's not a man's fault when he doesn't know what women want, and therefore women don't want him. Because we in my age group were not able to know what women wanted at a young age anyway. The ages by which we had to have our future plans, i.e. 17, 18, were also before we had the opportunity, the possibility to know the wishes of women. So we couldn't plan for both success in the field of skill and success in a happy marriage from which to launch kids into the future. That was not at all an option for my age group, because social media, you got to remember, that's less than 20 years old. I mean, the social media is about, maybe 16 at the most, and availability to everybody, about 12. So taking self-improvement advice from guys like UPUAs and coaches and alpha male viewpoints y'all tend to express, just to a short extent, had me burning myself out. So I wound up failing. And frankly, there was no way I could have succeeded. You see, without even being ugly, without being lame and awkward or any of these other things, and knowing that I was not, because I made every effort to make sure that I was not going to be this. I saw it in others and did everything I knew I needed to do to not be that. So while picking these and removing these things and making sure I never developed these things that you all love to make assumptions about, I still would not have been able to succeed because I was dealing with a culture of women trained and programmed to make the worst possible assumptions about their own race. So I look naive, like you can play any game on me and I'm an easy mark. So without being too obvious about it, hey, look, I'm not a mark. I just subtly let it be known that I knew these games and I wasn't that easy of a mark. And just from that, subtly letting folks know that these assumptions weren't true, then there were two conclusions that my female colleagues at work began to make. One, I would beat women. The other, I would take beating from a woman. Whichever one they thought was the weakest a man could do is what they would assume about me, because they wanted to make the worst assumptions. For a guy that they didn't consider black enough, according to what I was told in 2001, they certainly treated me the same when it came to the bad things. They don't assume that most men are normal. Your average normal man is not assumed to be normal. He's assumed to be anything bad. Now, when I became Muslim, I disbelieved in fornication as a rule, so I quit approaching for dates. I married, but her materialism came out before its time. And I wound up trying to be this real man that elder men have told us to be so that I could provide, working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, and living to regret it when I got sick from exhaustion and becoming a jerk because of this constant pressure and stress that just never stopped. Because we know the economy made a downturn, and these women did not give a rat's behind about what wasn't available. You better find it and bring it home. And then I found out other things about her that I won't repeat. So with me hiding stuff from you that I've gone through, I can tell you that I was actually luckier than other men. Other men on this red pill on my red pill side of the line have done a hell of a lot better with a hell of a lot less, or going up against a hell of a lot worse. So I can tell you that even after I had been married to her for a long time, got a good job, she was still upset because I had to live away to get this good job. Then when I got laid off from it, she was upset because I got fired, even though it wasn't a firing, it was a layoff. And it was political. They did it to a bunch of us. She instead blamed me and said, "What the hell did you do wrong?" Because despite my qualifications and despite the praises that they had given me before they laid me off, in her mind, I was a nigger, so therefore I must have messed up on the job. This is what being an alpha, as you ninjas talk about, got me. And I've left out a lot. A friend of mine went through even worse, put his wife through nursing school, and she talked about him bad to her family, like he was living off of her while she was going through nursing school and working. Painted a completely different picture. So when one of you was a war veteran, got on a live stream to talk about somebody's possible suicide, for which I still have not found confirmation or disproof, I got to say that frankly it was painful to listen to, because you had more to say about commentators underneath videos than about content creators who make the videos. Now, you, the war veteran, had already told us she wears a mask, she has to wear it, she cheats sometimes to take it off, it's too much pressure, then she goes back to wearing it with her husband. And you excuse this in them. You had cash crap to talk about we who call out the games and the deception. You said we're not ready for a patriarchy, but nobody's ready for this gynocracy, which is all obviously failing of the community too. And you said we're hypocrites because we're upset no matter what she does. No, bruh, they're upset no matter what we do because they won't tell us what they actually want. As you said, they don't want to. They got to wear the mask. When they see what they want, then they're just going to chase after it. But they're lying about what they want. So you forgot something. We're not hypocrites in that regard. Because if we get the same treatment from the same one, and it's consistent with what others have gotten under the same circumstances, if we know this, we don't get offended because it's not personal. We get offended when we find out, sir, that she's treating us differently, which you've admitted that they do, while lying about it. So if she's talking about she doesn't fornicate, but we know someone else dug her out, then we get offended because what she's pretty much saying is you're a lesser man. Even though you can take me out and I'll eat your wallet up, you're a lesser man. That's when we get offended. And you pretty much said, yeah, they're going to treat y'all differently. That's why it is that men can be virgins by default into their 20s. All they got to do is not make approaches. Turn around, make approaches. And despite all the difficulty they've seen, you think that with all the difficulty that we see, more of them would be virgins, and then none of them are. So if it's so difficult for so many of us, how is it that almost none of them are virgins? Because they've been sharing the same few, and you've said that yourself. Your answer was the mask, and that they have to wear it because they can't appreciate most of us, no matter how much they need many of us. You said that yourself. If they need us, why can't they appreciate us? You never discussed the immorality of it, and you never discussed the hypocrisy of it, Mr. War Veteran. And I keep saying war veteran for a reason. I'm going to tie it in. Instead, you and the other guy just went in on men that might have bullied Sansaray or not, and I didn't keep up with all that. But the thing is, let's imagine this. A gender is mysterious and confusing to the counterpart gender that it needs. This mysterious gender is not united either. So the members distrust each other routinely and betray each other, Ask Cynthia G about that. Yet this gender that is disunited is united on only one program, keeping the other gender in the dark about what they want, pursuing a minority from that other gender that opposes what they said they want, and then being difficult for the majority that we're trying to do and be and have what the mysterious gender says that it wants. So deceiving and exploiting men are the only commonalities. Eliminating most while still trying to get their resources is the only thing they will cooperate to do. Think about it. This is why that good friend of yours will not introduce you to her attractive girlfriend that is still single and looking. It's not because you don't know enough or I don't know enough or he doesn't know enough to be with and keep that dime piece, but because neither of them wants us to know what they want even though they want it. They'd rather complain that they can't find it than to spell it out so that more men can do and be and have it. This means that they know there's something wrong with what they want itself, and your very conscience would be outraged by it. That's why. That's what they're hiding. It's not fear, doubt, and insecurity by itself. They don't even hide it that well. They're hiding what they want, sir. They want to use you and to make sure that you are never sexually satisfied, even if you can't have kids. It's not even about blocking your DNA. That's not what it's about. It's contempt. They assume you're genetically inferior because you're normal, that I'm inferior because I'm normal, not because of our subnormality. And for this reason, even if someone has had a vasectomy and she knows it, she doesn't want that man spraying the cervix that's nice to of a woman that's nice to look at, whether it's maritally or by fornication. She does care because she doesn't want him to have that satisfaction consequence free. Even if it works out to where neither of them wants his genes to go into the next generation. And as a veteran of the war, you on that live stream, you know that this is an attitude of war against us men that they have. The insistence on deception and using our resources while blocking many of us from our own interest, even blocking us from mutual interest. That's a subtle war, but a war nonetheless. And you know this. You just won't tell us, and neither will the other guy, because the two of you are happy with us paying the price and not riding the rides. And that's because you know that you're riding the rides and not paying the price. You're not just doing it, but you know that someone's paying the price. And the one that's not the veteran, the other one, you said it yourself. You got to pay the ugly nigga tax. Well, what do you know about an ugly N-word tax if you're not ugly? Who told you about that? If you know, why not tell men from jump about it so that we can know that we're not being told the truth? What's wrong with leaving an environment if you're losing to block corner ninjas on one hand and losing to white corny bosses on the other? Yeah. See, I want to remind you two and your kind of one thing. We do not get away with the things that we do wrong. We are forced to take responsibility, and many times we're not against taking responsibility once we know that it was something wrong we did. The issue we have is that they don't have to. We don't even get away with honest mistakes because of what we just don't know about what they want. And we don't get away with not being able to read their minds. We don't get away with being regular men without superpowers. They get away with a lot, like acting like children, because they can jiggle some mammaries and some derriere. And you are the ones who are enabling it. Many guys have enabled this already, but we're saying, in my camp, we're saying, okay, we're not enabling this anymore. If I got to be a grown man, she got to act her age too. If I got to have a bag, she got to have a bag. If I got to be in shape, she got to be in shape. If I got to have a bag and she doesn't, then she's got to do something to earn this bag. I'm not going to be Superman just for Lois Lane. She needs to be Wonder Woman. So if this is war, walaikum salam. So if this is war, then you got to understand that they're the ones siding with the opposition, knowing that we didn't even start it. And I'm going to say this in the end, and then I'm done. I address this issue because different reasons that you do. I address it because Allah didn't create the genders for this. But you want to continue this and then tell us to excuse an unnecessary mass deception perpetuated for no other reason than to be difficult. You want to tell us to continue the opposite of what Allah ordained and even to forgive the ones that lied and oppose the very nature Allah gave to begin with. And see, here's the funny thing. When the liar winds up by herself because she ran out of options and competed with all the rest for two things that were mutually exclusive, a commitment and from the same one everyone else wanted, then insulted the leftovers with offers of leftover at new meal prices, then want us to blame or accept the blame for what the 13% did and enjoy with no consequences. See, when you're doing this, you forgot something. It's not in the Old Testament, it's not in the New Testament, and it's not in the Quran. where the innocent are penalized for what the guilty did, and there's a sanction. Now, that's why she's going to retire to the church and start blaming men while praying to a man who's just a man. An innocent man who sacrificed for the guilty she believes to be ordained by Allah himself, as if he is unjust. She's going to do this, and she's going to remove all accountability, and you're saying, yes, do that. You're co-signing off on this. But see, this whole mindset does not just remove all accountability, it disincentivizes morality. So they'll take the doctrine that the good must suffer for the bad, and you'll take this doctrine and say this and say, well, you got to be a real man to accept that doctrine. No, bro, because you want to apply it to men that she's not even thinking about because of what wasn't bad about him to begin with. And that's why it's in your best interest, mine and hers, to put your forehead on the ground to the one who is just and fair while still having mercy, and to come out of Babylon and go where you're not to be punished or blamed for what everyone else knows that someone else did and you did not. You need to disabuse and disburden yourself, really, of this notion that that you should take the blame for what someone else did, because we are not going to take the blame for what someone else did. We're only going to take the blame for what we did. And the next time I record, I'm going to explain to everybody in the audience why it is that I've tackled the issues that I've tackled. Because I don't mind confronting the issues, but I want you to understand what my purpose is and how it's different from yours. That's a talk for another recording, though. In the meantime, I hope that this helps. And I hope that one day you won't have to listen, that it'll be unnecessary. But until then, I hope it helps. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.